Welcome to Wired to Hunt's Rut Fresh Radio, bringing you the latest reports from the Whitetail Woods. Presented by First Light, creating proven, versatile hunting apparel for the stand, saddle, or blind. First Light. Go farther, stay longer. And now, your hosts, KC Smith and Tyler Jones.
This is Rut Fresh Radio, and I'm your host, Tyler Jones. This week, we hear from hunters around the country who saw the benefits of a cold front and are working to understand native vegetation versus agriculture, how and when the deer are relating to both, and what will happen in the next week. This is Rut Fresh. Let's go. This is Rut Fresh, brought to you by First Light Gear. I'm your host, Tyler Jones. KC Smith's in the house with me, too, hosting this thing. And we have been working hard the last week in Texas, of all places. KC, why would you work hard in a place that's as hot as Texas in the middle of October?
Tyler, just sometimes some people work hard, and that's just what they do, even whenever it doesn't benefit them much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So maybe we should work less. But in fact, I don't know, man. I just don't think that's how we're wired. And to tell you the truth, hard work doesn't always mean success, but it is a better way to find success than to just sit around. So
I guarantee you that.
You can get out and find some new stuff out, figure out your own little place in this world. Sometimes, you know, it's pretty conventional thought that the rut in Texas is later than the Midwest. However, that's not always the case.
Texas is huge.
Texas is huge.
And, you know, there's a lot of different ruts in Texas. We've talked about it on our podcast quite a bit over the years. And, I mean, we've got ruts from September to, you know, mid to late December. That is not just like saying that the deer are rutty, but that's saying like that is the absolute rage of the rut. You know what I mean? That is the time that they are chasing the best week of the year. It goes from, I mean, there's just a huge range because we've got a big coast and we've got desert mountains that look like Mexico, and we've got the high plains.
Carmel Mountain whitetails.
That's it.
Michael Waddell shot a big one of those one time.
Did he?
Yeah, sure enough. That's how I learned that existed.
Really?
Yep. From
Michael Waddell.
Michael Waddell.
What a guy.
He knows some stuff, man.
He does,
He's been there, seen that.
You know, I won a target from him one time. They did one of those caption this, best caption wins a target. And, you know that dice block out there? Mm-hmm. That's the one I won. I said Waddell for president. Anyway, so yeah, what you were saying though, and I guess probably what you're leading to is that there are some ruts going on right now. Mm-hmm. And you and I decided to travel a little ways recently and do some different things. And I actually went hunting on some public land, and in one night might have had something go my way. We'll talk more about that on our podcast, the Element Podcast, later on. But the fact of the matter is, this is Rut Fresh Radio, and we are talking about a rut going on in Texas right now. Mm-hmm. We hadn't really been able to talk about ruts anywhere, I don't think, on this podcast yet this year. Mm-hmm. And there were some ruddy things happening. And in fact, it was a cold front day, which I alluded to earlier in the intro of this podcast, that guys are finding some success on cold fronts. We had a cold front day that coincided with a certain area's maybe beginning of its rut. And the things happened, and we saw the trail cameras light up. We were noticing like raccoons in the middle of the day walking around in just the open. And that's how you know, man, the animals were moving. They were feeling frisky. It's like that first day of football practice when there's a little north wind and it's finally not 95. Just everybody's in a better mood, and everybody wants to run around, you know, on the football field. And that's the way it is in the woods. And that was the day that happened. It was a pretty fun day. So anyway, you went and did some stuff in a different area where there's a different rut, and
there's no ruddy stuff happening.
No ruddy stuff.
So
there's turkeys though,
and yeah, there's a lot of turkeys. Man, I'm ready for the spring out there. If you follow what we do as the Element, you'll see a lot of videos coming from this particular property that we got access to up in the Panhandle. I went up and did a bunch of prep work there. and it's about 800 acres, and I saw one rub, which was nice to see. But we did see some deer, a few does around. There's a wheat plot planted. Dirt, though, there's nothing coming up in it yet, so they need a little moisture out there. So it's like the regionality of things was very apparent to me this week, because we can be, in the oaks and pines and potentially be seeing some deer doing some snooting, and then you go out there and nada. Yeah. So, I'm not, this is kind of a joke around here, but I'm not a big moon guy, You're
a little moon guy.
Yeah, I'm not much of a mooner, as they say. But I do think that potentially, I kind of think just like the lunar cycle, specifically according to the light that the moon provides, makes a difference. I don't think that the deer, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that the deer are feeling the pull of the moon like a tide on the ocean does or anything like that, and it makes them get out of their bed or whatever. But I think that, and this kind of goes across all animals that are kind of that crepuscular type. Crepuscular. I think there's an R early in that.
It is, yeah.
Anyways, I think that when you have a full moon, deer can do stuff all night long, and it actually is pretty similar movement to like a new moon, which means no moon. But when you have these half moons, you'll have a lot of moonlight either early in the evening or early in the morning. You know what I mean? Like either side of the midnight, you'll have more light, and it kind of affects what you're going to see with deer movement for the next morning or the next evening.
Right.
So I think that this past week we were experiencing some of that, where right now you have just a little fingernail, so there's just not a lot difference. But before that, I think that there was a little bit of that whole the moon's hanging in the morning, so you're going to see some stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, that kind of all goes back to say where I didn't see a lot of activity out there, because I think there's a lot of deer doing stuff at night because they don't have a reason to get out because there's no rut. There's no bucks cruising or doing anything. And we didn't even see, I drove a good portion of the state yesterday evening in deer time, and I didn't see any bucks on their feet.
Yeah. So things are still, the best is yet to come still.
It's encouraging,
Yeah.
You talk about this some, but like you get to like November 18th or 19th and you can feel real depressed because it's like, the thing has came and went.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And we'll talk more about that as the year progresses. And that's kind of what Rut Fresh is about, is to give you the up-to-date information as to what's going on in your neck of the woods right now. So, Tyler, who do we have today on Rut Fresh?
Man, we've got the gamut. We've got people in all the different corners of the U.S. as much as possible, at least. We've got Chris Nickerson. He's up in Maine, which he refers to as a place that's called South Canada. We got Mike Hunsucker from Heartland Bowhunter. He's been hunting in Missouri, had some success there, got a good report for us. Tyler Jordan in Georgia, out there in Georgia. And then Graham Cronin from Vortex. He is a Wisconsin guy who is, a knowledgeable whitetail hunter in what potentially is the greatest whitetail state that there's ever been.
Yeah.
If you look at Boone and Crockett records.
Isn't that wild?
Yep.
Buffalo County, there was a question on Meat Eater Trivia the other day, and I got it wrong because I just had the brain block thing. But it's like the top county for Boone and Crockett. In records, and it's like I don't think of Wisconsin as in my top 5 for whitetail states, but it is.
It's because of your so-called propaganda.
Probably. It's also it really is a reflection of like my geographic location. Like and it's because there's a lot of good stuff to drive through to get to Wisconsin.
I guarantee you that, dude. It is hard, but if you're from Michigan, you might think differently.
That's right, man.
Marcus.
All right. Anyways, enough of what I got to say. You got some good stuff to say, but let's see what these guys have to say.
I've got Chris Nickerson. He's up in Maine right now. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, man, I'm doing actually just took a quick break here. I was doing some scouting this morning after my morning set, and I am sitting on a nice piece of granite in between 2 cornfields right now.
Man, is that where the bucks are sitting?
There are 0 bucks here.
Well, hopefully there's some in the state, I mean, at least somewhere around there.
We've got some good bucks in the state. They're just few and far between.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'd love to go up there, but, it's about near like going to a different country from Texas. So
I jokingly tell my friends in the South, this is, they ask me where I'm from. I say South Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's some Canada that's south of you there, but I'm not sure.
there actually is, I think, for sure.
Yeah. So what are the deer doing right now, man?
I'll be honest, it's pretty tough right now. The deer are doing not a lot of anything. We've got I'm hunting a friend's farm here that I've got access to, between 400 and 500 acres. We've got cameras in very diverse parts of this farm, and we're getting absolutely no daylight pictures of even does right now. It's very tough. It's very, very little movement right now. So I've been on 5 sits so far on my trip up here and have not had any activity at all. So it's going to be a tough one for me here.
So, but you're getting some night photos, I guess?
We are. I recently, last night, got on a nice scrape line, got a medium-sized buck coming out, but it's all between midnight, 4 a.m. of everything we're getting right now.
Yeah. Man, it's crazy, but if you travel to hunt, medium-sized bucks are shooters a lot of times,
If this guy shows himself in the daylight, I'm probably going to have a hard time resisting. So
Yeah, I guarantee you.
The current conditions anyways.
Yeah. Are you, you've got cameras over scrapes. Do you have them over any cornfields or anything like that?
We do. We've got a few on some cornfield edges that border up against an alfalfa field that's split down the middle. We've got deep in the woods, out in the fields, some heavy traveled paths. We've got a pretty diverse area covered with the cameras. So.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you're seeing night pictures. You're assuming those deer are bedding somewhere, but you're having trouble, I guess, locating the bedding.
I am. There's such a diverse terrain here in this part of Maine that you've got everything from really swampy, creek beds to higher areas with, a lot of hardwoods, and locating buck beds is very tough. I've only found one in the last 5 days here. So it's a challenge.
Do you think any of those hardwoods are creating problems as far as like dropping a bunch of feed right now?
That's actually something I've been looking for today. I've spent a good majority of today walking since I got out of my morning set, looking for some acorns, and I've even had a tough time locating anything like that. It seems that most of the deer here are just browsing in downs, and everything is chewed off. All the tops are chewed off everywhere you go. It's almost like they're just constantly browsing. It's a tough challenge to find a solid food source you can pattern off of.
I got you. Okay, so. I guess, going forward into the next week, what's the weather going to be like up there? Is there any hope?
This weekend, it's actually going to warm up, which is not what you want to see. We've been pretty steadily in the highs of 58 to 60, which hasn't been terrible. And it's been very consistent weather, so nothing's really changing. And it's actually going to warm up just a tad this weekend into probably 62, 63 degrees, which isn't what you want to see, but not a crazy change, but not exactly the direction I'd like to see either.
Is it worth looking at water sources when it gets hotter like that this time of year?
Up here, there's so much water that it's really not an issue at all. There's water almost everywhere you turn around here.
Gotcha. Okay. So with the temps warming up, I guess, and then maybe what's ideal is like when you get that warmer weather, and then if you're able to hunt the cold front on the backside of that thing, especially as we get later into October, that could be really good. What would you be doing in the next 7 days or so based off of weather or photo period or whatever?
For me, I think at this point, I would just continue to do a little bit of what I'm starting to do today, is trying to locate a little bit more of a solid food source, because I think even with the weather changing, I think right now food is king. They know winter's coming. They're preparing for that. And I think these bigger bucks, like the ones I'm chasing, they've got a food source somewhere that I just haven't gotten onto yet. These ag fields are kind of been picked clean. The corn's kind of on its way out. There's not a lot out here, so they're not really showing themselves in the field. So I think, like you mentioned, getting on some acorns, food sources like that are a little bit more rich in protein, I think that's kind of where it's at.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, in this next week, if you were to make an assumption about buck movement, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate that buck movement as?
I think I'm going to be real honest and give it probably, smack in the middle, 4.5 or 5. I don't think you're going to see much movement. I think that's been being fair, and I don't think there's going to be much changes. I think a solid 4.5 to 5 is where it's going to be.
Okay. Well, Chris, I appreciate the report, man, and all the information. I like it when, people talk fast on here because we can get a lot done in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for everything, and I hope you have a great season.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Now on the phone, I've got Michael Hunsucker from Heartland Bowhunter. Mike, what's going on, man?
Not much. Just in the archery shop, getting some new bows set up.
Oh, really? How about that?
Yes, sir.
That's cool. You your current bow won't shoot good enough?
True. Yeah, it did just fine. But I'm always tinkering.
Yeah, I know, man. You are. I'll tell you what. I sent you this message on Instagram the other day, but you shot a buck recently and you hit him real good, and you usually do. Is the archery stuff just a 365 for you? You're always doing that?
Yeah, man. I live and breathe it for sure, but definitely don't always hit them exactly where you want to hit them. Actually, had a couple experiences last year where you just hit them just a little bit off that spot, and it can make a world of difference. So that's kind of what's cool about archery hunting, though, is I'm still learning. I've been doing this a long time and still learning every day.
Sure, yeah. It's a big challenge, man. Well, so the cat's out of the bag. You shot a deer. You're in Missouri, and he's a nice buck. I saw POV footage, but it looked like the deer was coming into food. Is that correct?
Yeah. What little food was there? We had a brutal year for food plots, but he was coming to a green plot. Gotcha.
So brutal because of drought?
Yep, brutal because of the drought and just horrible drought and just really high late summer temperatures.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that the green food sources are performing better than like the grain right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like acorns and green food sources are the play.
Gotcha. So I know it looked like you've been hunting that deer a little bit and had some encounters with him so far. Was it all in the same area, or was he doing different things?
Yeah, he was really tight to an area and really wasn't moving much, honestly, at all in daylight. I knew exactly where he was bedded and had a couple encounters with him previous. One had him in bow range after dark. Well, it was legal light. I could have legally shot him, but I didn't feel comfortable taking the shot, 25 yards even. Mm-hmm. And then had a couple other encounters with him. Once where coyote spooked him and he got away, but he was in bow range. So I had him in bow range twice before I finally killed him.
Oh, man.
And then I did see him a third time off in the distance, but all three times were within 150, 200 yards circle radius.
Wow. So
of his bed.
What kind of vegetation is he bedding in?
He's actually bedded in, it's almost like kind of swampy type stuff. It's below a pond and big cottonwoods, but then tons of native grass and really tall grasses. So it's a thick area. It's, sometimes deer like to bed up on ridge tops where they have high visibility and they, utilize the wind in their favor. This buck was just holing up and he was smart.
Gotcha. So it looked like to me in the video when he came into the field, he kind of was doing some frisky stuff. Was he feeling the rut at all, you think, or was it just something different?
I don't know. That cold snap had them all kind of feeling a little bit frisky. Mm-hmm. Little bucks were sparring. This buck, he jumped a fence, and there was a couple other deer in the plot, so he was approaching them. But I think more than anything, it was just his getting his big body over those logs and jumping the fence. He had his momentum going.
yeah, I did, man. That's cool. So
but I was anticipating him just going to slow down, stop, start feeding, but he just kept on trotting. So I had to actually stop him, which I don't like to do unless you have to.
Sure. So. You got that soft grunt stop down, man. You gotta stop them with the softest grunt you can get them with usually, because if you don't, they're gonna get real tense real quick.
Yeah. I feel like that every situation's a little different with that.
Sure.
That one worked with the soft grunt. Last year, I had one that was crunching through leaves, and you could have yelled at them to get them to stop. So it's just you never know.
Yep, that's right, man. Well, so in the next week or so, do you expect to still be able to shoot deer on green food sources, or are things going to change, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you have good green food sources and they're not like just locked in on some acorns dropping, I think that they're usually the key: clover, brassicas, turnips, that type of stuff. But it really just kind of depends. And this next week coming up, We've had some nice little cold snaps here and there. It looks like we got one coming up on Thursday. It's going to cool off a little bit, but after that, gets back up into the warmer temperatures, mid 70s, and so that's going to really slow things back down.
Mm-hmm. So if you were looking forward to, say, the next 7 days or so, if you had to predict what buck movement would be on a scale of 1 to 10, based off those variables you talked about, what would you put it at?
I'm going to put it at probably like a 6 or 7. It's not looking great.
Yeah. That's if we can get a front though after that, and that timing will work out really well. I feel like where that last part of October and first part of November is going to really be on fire. So it's exciting that's the potential in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, variance in the weather is key. I mean, you can't just if it was just cool, for weeks on end. It wouldn't be as powerful as when it's warm, and then boom, it drops out, and then just really triggers them. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate it, Mike. I look forward to seeing the full video on that deer at some point, and hope you guys have a great rest of your season.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
All right, on the phone, I've got Tyler Jordan from Real Tree. Tyler, it's crazy. We just got on the phone with each other for the first time, never met, and we're best friends.
I know, we're best friends, and you're coming to an Ole Miss game next weekend. So that's how good of friends we just became.
I feel a lot of peer pressure right now, man. Well, man, what's been going on? I know you've been hunting a little bit. Has it been pretty good?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. The last 4 or 5 days, I would say, have been definitely better, probably the best it's been, up to this point in the season. And, my little brother shot a buck last Sunday, and, for youth weekend with a rifle. So really excited about that. And, just trying to take advantage of that first cold front. That's really kind of my favorite time to hunt, is when you have those first, 2 or 3 days that it gets, cooler weather. So I was happy for Colton that we were able to get a good solid 8-pointer on the ground, and, have another big deer that we're trying to hunt. But, unfortunately, I think the weather's really going to warm up later this week.
Yeah. So you and Colton shot this deer. What was he doing?
He actually came into a food plot. We were hunting this food plot where this deer, we've seen him in several times. He's been on camera, and I will say he has not really been daylight at all. But we just kind of went in there thinking, man, take advantage of this cooler weather. And then the first thing he did when he entered the food plot, he came in and checked the scrape. And we got all that on camera, and hopefully we'll put that up here, sometime soon on our, road trip show. But came in there, checked the scrape, and, he was kind of, bump and doze just a little bit. They were feeling a little bit frisky with this cooler weather, but, that's kind of what he was doing when he came in.
Man, that's cool. So this is a green food source, I'm guessing, right?
Yes, big clover field.
Okay. And was this a mock scrape, or had this been set up by the deer?
No, this has been set up by the deer.
Oh, cool, man. So as far as, other food sources, have you seen deer hitting any acorns or anything like that, any oak trees? Or?
Yeah, so that's been the primary, food source, I would say, over the last probably 2 weeks, Tyler, is, I feel like that's what a lot of these deer are doing. They've been a little bit just more reclusive. There's just plenty of cover and food. I mean, I walked around today, trying to pick up this bigger buck that I've been trying to hunt since really the beginning of the season. And I mean, everywhere you walk, I don't think I've ever seen an acorn drop like this. I mean, we just got a bunch of red and white oaks kind of falling everywhere, and which makes it, a little bit difficult, especially with the weather, warming up right now, is, just kind of really honing in on exactly what to do. So, we found an acorn flat today, and I put a camera up, and, we'll see kind of what happens, but it definitely seems like hardwoods and timber is really where you want to be right now.
Sure. So how important is the cold weather to that success you had this week?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's kind of everything. I'm probably, like, I've even kind of contemplated, as much as I do want to go in there and hunt these hardwoods over the next, 3 or 5 days, it's going to be in the upper 70s. And I just don't know if I want to do more harm than good. So, I really think we're going to need that colder weather. And I don't really know if we're going to get that. It looks like the 29th and 30th, I kind of have circled right now. The weather's going to be in the lower 60s, for highs. And, for us, that's pretty cool weather. Because I think tomorrow, next day, it's going to be 77, 78. Mm-hmm. And, just my experience after that first kind of cold front, the weather goes back that warm. That's kind of what I refer to a little bit as that October lull kind of dead period.
Sure. So in your region of Georgia, when is the rut, in your opinion?
I would say like somewhere like November 8th to like the 14th. Mm-hmm. I would say that's probably when it's, really starting to pop off.
Gotcha. So even with that cold weather at the end of the month here, you don't expect it to be just a 10 out of 10 until maybe 2 weeks later or so.
I would say so. I mean, and that's kind of what I'm banking on, at least for this particular buck that we're hunting. And, for a couple other ones we have targeted. I'm probably more looking forward to the 1st of November. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of where like my head is right now, unless something just drastically changes. I mean, not to say I don't have any hope at all. Mm-hmm. Obviously going to go in there and try to maximize whatever opportunity we can, but kind of looking forward to the rut.
So, if things cool back down after we get this warm kind of stagnant stretch here, would you change anything about what you're like the way you're hunting? So as far as, you guys killed near a scrape on a green field, would you change anything if we were closer to the end of the month and when the weather came in?
I mean, I would probably look at maybe getting a little bit closer to some of the bedding, at least in my situation where I think this buck is, like he's not really getting to any of these green fields or any of the, I have like some standing corn fields, and we've cut a portion of it. And like I sat on it last night and, didn't see but one deer the whole night. And I could see a long ways. I think, if we had that cold front come in again, I would just try to close in the distance a little bit more. And that's something I may not try, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. I may just try it once or twice. And if it works, it works. But what I would like to do is to get a lot closer to their bedding area. Up to this point, I feel like I've been, real protective of that. But if I feel like if I have a good wind, good weather, that's something I'll probably try to do different that I haven't done yet.
Sure. So in the next week or so, what do you think the buck movement is going to be based on a scale of 1 to 10? What number would you give it? This
probably is going to sound a little bit low, but I'd probably say even a 4.
Yep. Good. Man.
That's just kind of where I'm at.
Everybody's got, got these optimistic, expectations, and I try to be an optimist too, but sometimes you just got to be real with yourself and say, okay, these are work days. These aren't hunting days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's just previous experience. And that's not to say it's not going to be really good for anybody else. Mm-hmm. Obviously nobody hold me to that rating in Georgia when they send me a picture of a giant. Cause I hope it happens for everybody.
Sure.
But after that first kind of cold snap, that October lull, at least for us, I mean, it seems to hit. And, not to say you don't get a couple of really good days in there, some good weather you can take advantage of and hunt. But, with the weather warming up, I'm just not overly optimistic. But again, you never know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tyler, I appreciate what you've done, you and your dad have done for the hunting community, man, and I appreciate you taking my call, and I hope that that big buck you're hunting gives you a chance here in the next couple weeks.
I appreciate it, Tyler. Look forward to doing it again.
On the phone, I've got Graham Cronin from Vortex. He's up in Wisconsin. Graham, what's the weather like up there right now?
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me, man.
Sure.
It's been pretty consistent, the past couple days here, just kind of lingering between that like mid 50s to low 60s. And it looks like it's going to be that way for a couple days here now.
Mm-hmm. So that's what a lot of people are seeing right now. I think across the country, we kind of have this it's not a terrible weather, but it's a stagnant weather pattern. And, it's kind of made for a lot of tough hunting conditions. Are you seeing the same thing, or are deer moving pretty good around you?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, seeing the same thing, kind of that real stagnant weather just really doesn't have them doing too much. Where we've kind of looked out in the past week, we had a couple rain spells where it lasted for about 2 to 3 days. And then hunting that break, I know a lot of people that have had success and like people seeing their cameras blow up with bucks hitting scrapes. So even though it is that stagnant weather, trying to find those different opportunities that are going to get them moving. So whether it's wind switches, looking for those rain conditions, I think you can still be pretty successful this time of year with that even.
Yeah. What would you focus on if you had a rain shower one day? What would you, when you go out to hunt, what are you going to look at hunting?
Oh man, I would be this time of year. I'm looking at oak flats and I am trying to find scrapes.
Yeah.
If I can find a scrape that looks like it's been worked, in the past day or two, depending on what that rain looked like, find one that looks like it's pretty fresh, because as soon as that rain stops, I would expect the buck to probably be freshening that up.
So white oaks, red oaks, what are you looking at?
A lot of whites by me this year, so I've been hunting those primarily.
Gotcha. So this is the kind of $1 million question here for a lot of people who are talking about white oaks. But have you found any way to really focus in on this is why this oak tree is the place to be, as opposed to all the other maybe hundreds of oak trees in the woods? Which maybe it's not that way, but a lot of places that have white oaks, there's a bunch of them. So how do you focus on one?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's for me, I haven't found a specific reason of, why this tree is doing better. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason out there. I'm not a tree guy.
Yeah.
So I don't have that answer, but I am a deer guy. So I'm just looking for the deer sign around those trees. So it's just trying to figure out, where those deer are where they're coming from, where they're going to, and then going off of that.
Would you say what percentage of the acorns have fallen off of those trees, generally speaking, right now?
Oh, that'd be tough. I'd say probably majority of them. There's still a lot lingering on, but I would say probably in that 60 to 70% range.
So in the next week, would you change what you're going to do, or would you still stay with, scrapes on oak flats?
I would probably stick. Within the next 7 days, it looks pretty much the same, that kind of 50s, 60s degree temps. But just outside of that range, we're looking, that 8-day mark, we're going to get another rain spell for a couple days. So I think it'd still be hitting that same kind of strategy of, getting in there, finding those scrapes and hunting them. Because, even on cameras, you're starting to see bucks freshen those up more and more frequently.
Yeah. So you think that there is a definite increase in testosterone happening right now? The deer are starting to check and really get ready and ramp up towards that rut, or is it still a lot of night movement, or is going to be some day movement in there?
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to just get on the fringe of that day movement. I mean, looking at my small sample size of the cameras that I got out, like within the past 4 or 5 days, you're starting to see a lot of those 2.5, 3.5-year-old bucks start hitting those scrapes. I mean, I've had some that have definitely been in legal light, but still kind of like right on the fringe. But yeah, I would say it's probably not too long from now where you see those big boys getting up and start moving a lot more too.
Gotcha. So in the next week, in the next 7 days, or maybe even 8, we'll cheat a little bit here. Are you, are you thinking that the deer movement, or I guess let's just say, is the buck movement going to increase, or is it going to be about the same?
I would say in the near future, it's going to be about the same, but kind of like hitting that 7-day mark, I'm going to see a big increase just with the time of year. We're going into late October. Here we're getting that rain spell, and, they're starting to think about things. So okay. I would say it's definitely trending up.
So let's hype people up a little bit. On the 7th or 8th day from this point on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think the buck movement is going to be like on that 7th or 8th day?
I'm going to put it at a strong, just seeing from what we saw with this last rain movement and just knowing that, we're obviously getting closer to November. I'm going to put it at like a 6.5, 7. I think you're going to see a good movement. Man,
that's awesome. Yeah. So that's exciting. And things just get better from this point on for a while. So it's a good time to be in the woods. I appreciate the information and the report, Graham, from Wisconsin. And hopefully things pan out for you like last year, where you said, when you were on Rut Fresh last year, I think the day it dropped, you shot a buck, right?
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that this happens again for me.
All right. We'll try to make it work for you. So just let me know, and I'll release this thing whenever the weather's right for you.
Perfect. Yeah. If you could just plan accordingly, that'd be great.
Perfect. All right, Graham. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, appreciate it, Tyler. Take care.
I hope that you found all of that encouraging or at least informative so that you can make the best decisions this fall chasing big giant whitetail bucks. And if you want to get more detail about how to chase big giant whitetail bucks or the stories behind some of the big giant whitetail bucks that say Tyler Jones may or may not have encountered and arrowed, you should go check out the Element podcast. It's the landing place for all of our stories and experiences. We don't like to count ourselves as experts, but we're guys with a lot of experience and pursue that experience. We try to get out in the woods as much as we can. I get tired of answering emails. I'm here to hunt, guys. So go listen to the Element podcast if you haven't. There'll be a link for that down in the description below. Also, the entire buck truck saga. The what would you call 7 things grouped together? It's not a trilogy. It's not. I don't know. It'd be. I
only know up to 6. I think.
I think 7 is like the prefix sex, isn't it? Like six.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sexonomy. That might be kind of, I don't know. Don't Google that.
No, I wouldn't either.
But anyways, the entire buck truck series of 7 has released on the Element YouTube channel. If you want to find all that in one location, you go watch it there. We'd appreciate it. It helps us out a lot if you go view there. And also, we had a lot of fun hunting in Nebraska this year. And Tyler and I both had some success there. And Tyler's hunt shall release on the Element YouTube channel soon. We're not sure what day, so go subscribe and hit the notifications button so you can be let known whenever that goes out as well.
Also, Tony Peterson, you guys are familiar. He wrote an article about hunting scrapes during the October lull. Might be handy for some of you guys who are trying to get it done right now. And Season 12 of Meat Eater is releasing on YouTube currently, so lots of stuff to look at. Guys, we appreciate you listening this week and going over to the Element and listening to that podcast as well. Remember, keep it fresh. This is Rut Fresh.